welcome to This Just In with This Just In as your host, JustIN Corr. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories most important to you and also talk to the people who bring you those stories, help you get to know them a little better. Today on This Just In, a first-time guest, a first-time correspondent, sports director, Jay Tust. Jay, I can't believe you agreed to come on. This is a real get for our new booker.
You told me that this was where the Brian Holmes roast was taking place. That's not this.
It's
all right.
It's coming up later. Just stick around.
I hear, by the way.
Stick around for the next 28 minutes. Yeah. And then we'll do it at the very end. Brian is actually coming on a future episode. You should swing by, surprise him a little bit.
Sounds good.
He loves surprises. Jay, we're going to talk about how the local sports world has changed in the past. I couldn't believe when I read this. 14 years.
Yeah,
you've been at KTVB.
My joke was going to be the show's called, This Just In. We look at the timing of it, but I'm not just in. I've been here forever. It feels like now. 14 years. It is crazy. In all honesty, Justin, I remember and I signed my contract. I thought that I would move to Idaho for the length of my contract, and then I thought that I would leave Idaho. And then I turned out to really love this place, and I met my wife, and we had kids, and Boise State makes covering their football team and other sports programs pretty fun, and I am 14 years into this thing now, and I can't believe how fast it's gone, but here we are. I remember some of the other guys when I first got in the market saying that they were here for like 14 years and thinking like, God, that's like forever. I'm going to be like 100 if I'm here for 14 years. So I feel like I'm 100, but I'm not 100.
You're going to feel like it. Yeah. Nights, weekends. You are working all the time. I remember one time I went on a work trip with you. I mean, work for you, not necessarily for me, to Laramie, Wyoming. It was actually anytime you're in Laramie, it's work. But anyway, I was... you were working literally the whole time, cutting stuff, getting ready for the pregame show, getting ready for the postgame show. I mean, during the game, you're on social media doing this and that with your Tust stats. I remember one time it was the day and the night before a big Bronco game. You were tweeting interesting stats every hour on the hour. And I'm like, oh, wow, you had a program to do that. And you were like, nah. You were just up, brother.
For the record, now you can schedule tweets on, or whatever they call it, on X. But back then, that was the 2014 Mountain West Conference Championship game.
Oh, you remember?
I do remember because I made the commitment. I was like, I'm going to set an alarm in every hour. I had the tweets for the most part ready to go. I just had to cut, paste, press send. But I set my alarm for every hour. So the 24 hours or whatever it was, I sent out a tweet every hour counting down till kickoff. And kind of a cool story about that. It was I don't think it was game day, but it was right around the time that it happened. And Brian Harsin actually sent me a message saying that was actually pretty cool that I did that. But again, that was before you could schedule your tweets.
It was pretty cool, and we're going to talk about the changes. And honestly, I think you get some credit for the growth of that program. Maybe that's just me saying that, but we're going to talk about it. First off, let's start at the beginning, Jay. You grew up in Tacoma, Washington, Seattle's little brother. Any fun stories about growing up?
Seattle's little brother?
That's right. No? Talk to me about
probably
it.
Is. I just wanted to fight you on that one.
You can. Feel free.
We got more character, I guess, in Tacoma.
100%.
No, I love growing up in Tacoma. Grew up right by the water. We spent our summers,
nice.
Boating and things like that, and it was a good time. Good time growing up.
You grew up on the water, also on a baseball diamond. What did you love about baseball?
I think. I love a good, either a comeback story or a redemption story, the underdog story, because that's kind of how I felt like my life was, growing up playing sports. Straight up, I sucked at sports growing up. I was always kind of the small kid out there.
Really?
I loved baseball, but I was not good at it. And my dad, he was a great baseball player growing up, and my best friend, Tyler, he was always the best kid on the team, and I'd always be kind of at the other end of the bench. And I credit, playing wiffle ball in the backyard, though, for, like, making me stay with it. And every day after school, Tyler and I'd run home. We'd play wiffle ball until, either his mom came and picked him up from my house or whatever it would be. But I fell in love with it. Ken Griffey Jr. was my idol.
Sure.
I'd watch him every night. And I remember one day playing in Soundview Little League. I was 12 years old. And I was kind of the kid, and in all honesty, that would kind of duck out of the way and was kind of scared of the ball. And it was probably the one game, like almost in my life, that my dad didn't come to. He was like the ultimate supporter, right?
Yeah.
He had to work that weekend. And I remember stepping into the batter's box and just saying, what, screw it. I'm swinging at this thing. And I laced the double to the right center gap, and that was like literally the turning point in my baseball career. I was like,
awesome.
I just hang in there. And
you were like, that feeling right there.
It was great.
I want more of that.
Yeah, I want more of it. And so, that's why I enjoy covering certain stories so much, because you see kids that even if they might not be good, they might be good and they might be struggling now. And that was absolutely me at one point in time, and that's kind of why I like to cover stories now.
And then you went on to be an Olympian, kind of, representing Team Washington at the USA Junior Olympics. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, so that was a great time. We went down to Arizona, and we got to play against like the best competition that there was in America. I think there was even a couple of international teams that ended up showing up at that thing.
Wow.
But it was so cool to get down there, and we played on the spring training fields that, the professional MLB players play on. And by the way, I remember, growing up in the Northwest, it's a little damper. We have longer grass, things like that. And I remember the first ball I hit in a gap out there, and I got out of the box kind of like it was going to be a single or whatever. And I was always the guy that hustled, loved stealing bases and things like that. But I just kind of, my instincts just said, oh, that's a single. And I look up, and the grass out there is like putting greens. The ball rolls to the wall. I'm like, oh, heck yeah, this was this about. So it was an awesome experience, and getting to represent Team Washington. And, that's when my love for baseball really started to take off too.
And speaking of international play, did you play in Japan or just head over to Japan? What was that about?
So following my senior year of high school, there was another kind of all-star team put together from kids in the Northwest, and we got to go over to Japan, and we played for 2 weeks over there. And the first week was awesome. The second week, getting to the middle of the second week, I was like, I am a little homesick. But the cultural experience was like the coolest thing. And I got to say, whenever we traveled, it was for baseball. So, it would be going to Oregon for the weekend or California for a week, Arizona. It was hardly really exploring different cultures. And this was a very unique opportunity to do that. And so if you really know me, one of the things about me, I'm not a big vegetable guy, right? Not huge
really?
on veggies.
You and Al Michaels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. About the only thing we have in common. But yeah, not a big veggie guy. And so we travel to a place called Takuma, which is funny because I'm from Tacoma, right? And that was where our first start.
Did you just go to Tacoma and they call it Takuma?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But we get there, and we fly to San Francisco, we fly abroad, we have to take a bus ride there.
Jeez.
And I'm so disoriented by the time we actually get to our host family that I don't even really remember going to bed that night. We woke up, and I was like, oh, I got a roommate. His name was Robbie Jameson, which we were kind of rivals in high school, so that was kind of funny. He turned out to be a real cool kid. But so we go downstairs for breakfast. Host family could not have been nicer. And I sit down for breakfast, and the mom there brings over a bowl, and it has lettuce and a tomato cut in half. And I'm just like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what time it is, but all I know is I need something else for breakfast.
You were like, I can feed this to your pet rabbit. And
exactly.
Then, is there some food following that?
The coolest thing about it is she wanted to give us both experiences, basically everything we did, right? So she wanted to give us maybe what they would traditionally eat. But then she also, moments later, I think she just wanted to see the reaction. She brought out eggs and bacon and a much more traditional breakfast.
Nice.
And I just remember thinking to myself, thank you, God.
Thank you.
I just that's the breakfast I needed at that point in time. But yeah, we spent 2 weeks over there. I got a samurai sword, no big deal.
Whoa.
And it was an absolute blast. I'm bummed because at some point in time we made the news over there, and so they actually I got a couple highlights on the Japanese newscast that night.
Wow.
And in college they got a little feature done on me, and I never actually retained the tape because that's how old I am. Is that you could only get it back on tapes back then or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it'd be like it's just saved on our drive, and I'm like, hey, can you just transfer it over to me? But
Right, yeah.
not the case.
Lives on the internet. So you said you weren't very good growing up,
Nope.
and yet you are the first guest on here that's actually been drafted. You got drafted by the Reds back in, well, I don't want to reveal your age. A number of years ago, your dad got drafted by the Giants back in '71. What was it like getting the call, just like your dad did?
So the story about that, I knew that it was draft day, and I knew that I had a shot. And if anything, the Texas Rangers were the team that I really felt like I had the best chance of going to, just because I probably had the most communication with them. And this is back in the day. It was 2002, guys. It's 2002. It is what it is, all right? I'm so old.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
But that context is important because we didn't have cell phones, really. I had one friend. I mean, like one close friend that had a cell phone. His name was Ethan. And so it was just about lunchtime, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop by the library and check MLB.com and the draft tracker. And that was also back when internet and computers operated at a different speed. And the 28th round was just kind of loading. And
You're connecting.
Yep.
Bong,
only like the first 3 picks popped up or whatever, right? And I was like the third pick in the 28th round, third pick, and I just remember being like, oh my God, I just got drafted. And so I just hitting print on that thing. I grabbed the piece of paper. I go down to the lunchroom with all my buddies at the table. I was like, guys, I just got drafted by the Reds. And so then my next thing was like, Ethan, could I borrow your phone so I can call my parents? And so I called them and I told them, and they came from school. It was a thing, they stopped by Pro Image or whatever, and they all got Reds hats. And my mom is the most creative person I know. She is wildly creative. She's also the nicest person and most humble person I know. So I always wish that she would go kind of viral for the incredible cool things that she does. But when I got home too, she had painted the windows on the front of the house. And it doesn't look like, just somebody painting a Reds logo. It looks like she called somebody to have it professionally done. But
right.
It was just her.
It's it's Reds headquarters.
Yeah. And so that was kind of that story. And that was back in the day. In order to go to a 4-year college, you had to give up your draft eligibility rights until after your junior season. And I wasn't quite ready to do that. So I ended up starting out at the junior college route, played a few years, transferred to Washington State. When I transferred to Washington State, I was a kid. I never drank. I never did anything but work on my craft when I was an athlete. And I got to Washington State, and I turned 21. And not to say that was what made my decision or whatever, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to be a kid a little bit. And I probably didn't, train like I did. And I went out for a couple practices, and I just kind of realized my heart wasn't in it. And so then I stopped playing sports, but I still wanted to be involved with sports. So my immediate route was going into kinesiology, physical therapy, want to do something like that.
You still want to be around it.
You still wanted to be around it. The thing about that though, Justin, is, they have this thing in college where they weed out the weak by simply testing your desire to do it. And and chemistry, biology, these classes were at 7 a.m.
I don't know if that's trying to weed people out more than just trying to prepare you for a career.
Maybe, but at that point in time in college, you're like, whoa, I got to get up before 10. And like I said, I stopped playing sports because I wanted to be a kid. I wanted to do this stuff.
Yeah.
It turned out the communication school started classes 11 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that just seemed like it was a little more ideal for my schedule.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you.
So I ended up talking about sports instead of, all that tough stuff.
Well, I meant to ask about this earlier.
Yeah.
You never stopped working out, though. Because, the question I always get about you is, what's your bench?
It's after football season, so not as much as it will be, in June or July, because this is kind of the build back up. But
just lie.
Just lie.
500 pounds. 500 on the bench. Unbelievable.
If you think 400 pounds is a lie, then you know, you can choose to believe it or whatever. But, you know, I was pretty strong back in the day.
Dang.
Yeah.
Still pretty strong.
Yeah.
All right. So you are a graduate of Wazoo, home
Go Cougs.
of the greatest communication college in the world.
Darn right.
Unless you ask
anyone
else.
Jude Binkley wrote that. I think Joe Paris also contributed to that fact.
Joe Paris went to Colorado.
I know. He's calling Washington State the greatest. Jude went to, I think it was a junior college at Arizona State or something.
He went to ASU.
Yeah, something like that. I don't even know if they have a comm school, but those guys, Jude and Joe tell me every day about how they wish they went to Washington State's Edward R. Murrow School of Communications.
Everyone's running second place to Boise
Correct.
State. But you worked at the incomparable Fox Sports Northwest that I absolutely remember. I grew up watching. Mm-hmm. FS, NW, covering great teams like the Sonics, RIP, the Mariners, and no other pro teams I can think of in Seattle. What'd you learn about sports broadcasting up there?
The first day that I was an intern was Seahawks minicamp during the summer. Exactly, you forgot to mention them. Yep, exactly, Seattle Seahawks. But they asked me to go grab sound that day. And it was
no way.
Yeah, but it was like it's just so casual. And it's like anything that we would do now, but it was like, hey, Sean Alexander has some media availability. Will you grab some sound with him? And I'm like,
just go talk to one of the greatest players in the NFL.
I mean, like he was outstanding at that point in time with the Seahawks, league MVP type.
Yes.
And I remember like thinking at the moment, like, now I go? Like, I feel like I need like a day or two to prepare. Like,
right.
How do I wrap my head around this? And so I went there like nervous as could be that I would actually have to ask Sean Alexander questions. Turns out, I mean, you know, there's plenty of other people there that actually do that as a living.
You got
and so
sort of elbowed out.
Mostly
by the big
it was
names.
holding a mic while other people asked him questions. But I just remember at that point in time thinking like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest. Turns out it was.
Turns out it was. And then you kept on doing it. From there, you headed back to Idaho to be the sports director at KLEW in Lewiston, Idaho. What are some of your favorite stories from your time in Lewiston?
Oh, man. It's so funny because I only lived there for barely over 2 years, but at the time it just felt like it was an eternity, right? I mean, living in Lewiston.
No offense, but a lot of offense to Lewiston. Love you, Lewiston.
Well, how many people, you know, when they're 23, 24 years old, want to move away from all their friends in a big city that they're having fun on the weekends to, you know, go chase your professional dreams in
a logging town.
Lewiston, Idaho. Yeah, not many.
No. It's very much sort of like the Iowa Cubs.
Yeah.
Or where it's like or rookie ball. It's like I'm gonna go play in Mesa, you know, for like nobody, but hone my craft and then get out of there.
Oh no, me and my buddy Matt Lovelace. Like I remember, so I was working at Root, and I just gotten a little bit of a promotion there to be like kind of more like a producer and start to kind of do those play cooler, more involved roles. And he called me up and he was like, "Hey, our sports director position's open. It pays $9 an hour. Do you want to move to Lewiston, Idaho?" And I remember thinking, does that work out too?
Brother, $9 an hour. I want to make sure everybody listens to that and internalizes it. Next time you want to fire off a mean tweet or comment to anybody in this business, it's like not as glamorous as you might expect. If you went into kinesiology, maybe.
Oh, the funny thing is, I remember him actually being upset because I actually had a 50 cent per hour raise over him. It was because I also had to do like a weekly sports show or whatever. But I just remember thinking at the time, like, how funny is it? 50 cents. But at the same time, that's actually like you do the math. That's actually like a portion of your salary. Like I would be upset over 50 cents. But, you know, it's back in the day where, you're making meals together to get by. You barely any furniture in the living room. Are you kidding me? Cable TV, like what was that? Like we're bunny ears. We get 8 channels or whatever.
You watch TV at work. Yeah, they're paying for the cable.
No, straight up. Like if there was a big NFL Sunday or something, and the game wasn't on an over-the-air channel, we'd drive up to work and go watch it there. That's what we had to do.
Yeah, putting in the extra hours there. I still remember you, Carolyn Holly, like brought you through the newsroom. Yeah, you were in Clue. I remember meeting you back then. where she was like, this is Jay. He's looking to maybe get down here. You seemed like super excited about the newsroom getting down there. And I mean, I had not a somewhat similar path. I came out of Twin after starting here, but not on air. And so I was thinking like, yeah, he'll probably make it here. And it's just incredible to think about Boise, which I love, we all love. That's why we're here. But it's still Market 100, but when you're coming from somewhere else, it's like, man, that's a big city.
And I think the thing about Boise, I mean, even to the day, it plays so much bigger than its market size. It's the biggest city in the state of Idaho, and it feels important. It feels like it has meaning. I remember I applied for the job a couple of times, at least once before, and didn't get it. And I remember thinking like, gosh, I'm going to be stuck in Lewiston, Idaho forever. And then about a year later, position came open again, and I applied for it. And Carolyn Hawley, I call her, my work mom, because she's given me so much advice. She's a tremendous mentor to me, and I there's no doubt I would not be here today at KTVB without her support. Mm-hmm. And it was a crazy time, because the guy that actually hired me, the news director, had a great conversation with. He said he hired me. I had about a month off until I actually started here. I took 2 weeks off. I need to get my tonsils out. And so that was my 2 weeks off. And then I actually just had kind of 2 weeks to be with family or whatever.
Nice.
Halfway through that, though, the guy calls me and he says, hey, I took a job somewhere else. I'm like, do I still have a job? He's like, oh, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, well, who's my boss? And I think there was still something up in the air at the time, but it turned out to be Kate Morris. And Kate was awesome. She's another massive supporter of mine that I owe a lot to for where I am in the industry. And I feel like I was a go-getter back then, and she always encouraged and pushed me. And love Kate. And then at the time too, just to do the arrangement of our old newsroom, I was sitting next to our digital leader named Lisa Chavez. And then lo and behold, Kate moves on to Arizona, and now Lisa is my boss. So I've been here through a lot of change, but it's been cool.
I think you've also forced a lot of that change. When you arrived, there was no sports director position. Mm-hmm. It had been eliminated. Yeah. And I got to give you credit for working those nights, for setting those alarms every hour on the hour overnight. You essentially forced management into creating that sports director position again, and you're a sports director because you sort of made yourself undeniable. And I always really respect the heck out of you for that. Well, it's like, no, that's the guy.
Well, that's a massive compliment that I appreciate. When I got here,
your mom wrote it for me.
Probably.
No,
I said she's the best. I love you, Mom.
I'm just kidding. No, that's the truth. Yeah.
When I got here, there were a couple of things that stood out to me. Like KTVB, the day that I walked into this place, I remember seeing all the white Explorers we had parked out front, and all of them were backed in, and it just looked like, oh my, they're ready to tackle the world. Like literally,
a fleet.
Literally
fleet
anything.
News people.
Literally anything could happen, and they would be ready to go.
Launch the Explorers, launch the Ford Explorers.
For real, though. And obviously our news industry has evolved and resources and things have changed over time, but I just remember that. And still being out in the community, one thing I didn't love is that, everybody would be like, oh, Channel 7, you think you're better than everybody. And I didn't like people I didn't like people thinking there was a smugness to it, right? Like your hard work should earn that more than anything. And so that was one thing I tried to make connections, be friendly and things like that. And that was a real point of pride of mine. The other thing is that we had some really elite newspaper people in town at that time, and they were great at their jobs. Yeah. But I also don't think that they loved TV people because there was this perception that we would just show up. And
I was in sports. They didn't.
They would just show up and either take their content or maybe some of their questions or utilize things that they felt like they worked for. And so I was like, well, that's, I need to prove to them that I want to be more than that. And so that was a huge thing, whether it be Tust stats or building relationships or trying to break stories or things like that. I just wanted to prove I can be more than that.
Well, and you have proven it. I mean, you are the Boise State and Boise sports insider right now. You're the guy who's breaking all the news. You're out in front of it. Other stations, even papers, have cut their sports departments or eliminated them completely, but you're still here doing that, creating amazing content, and I mean driving people to our
Hopefully.
product. So yeah. It sounds like I'm your agent right now,
I know,
but it's all
I-
true. It's all true. If you got a
So
negotiation,
complimentary. I might come on the show again there, Justin.
You're
I mean, if people only know the normal newsroom conversations that we have, built off sarcasm.
Oh, it is sarcasm.
It is sarcasm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's on the record
Yeah.
now. What are some other big changes you've seen in the local sports scene, Boise State or otherwise?
Yeah, it's funny because I think every time you think of there has been big change, there's something even bigger on the horizon. Like,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the evolution of our industry, and it's so funny to even consider like we had to adapt to social media. Now that's just a part of it. The workday never ends for us, and you know that. It doesn't matter what you do in news because you're always attached to the cycle. Now we're dealing with NIL and players getting paid, and
it's pro sports now.
It is.
You're covering Boise State is pro sports.
It is, and the future of it is unknown. It's insane, but it's not going to slow down. I hope there is some structure to it because I think everybody needs it, whether you cover the team, whether you coach the team, whether you play the game itself. I think there needs to be more oversight and structure, and right now the NCAA is just they're almost irrelevant because they're not really
100%.
doing anything to monitor anything. I mean, you have Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, the coaches at the top of this thing that are complaining about NIL and tampering and things like that. I mean, Spencer Danielson does it, and it's a fun story or whatever, and now these guys are doing it. I mean, if those guys are doing it, I mean, those are the guys. It's half the time I feel like those programs are the pot calling the kettle black. But if those guys are doing it and saying it, like, what is it going to take to get some regulation on this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're playing catch up. I mean, it's ESPN, it's Fox Sports, these sports networks, and these huge conferences and universities that are really calling the shots now because they hold the purse strings.
The funny thing about it, though, is it doesn't necessarily – it's not like mainstream public knowledge like it is in the MLB or NBA or NFL where you have salary caps. And, like, what made the Oakland Athletics such a great story back in the day, back when I was in high school, Moneyball. They were this cheap team that, somehow Billy Beane formed together – that could compete with the mighty Yankees, right?
Yeah.
Well, I hate to break it. Like, nobody really looked at this during the Fiesta Bowl, but Boise State was the Oakland Athletics. I mean, they're dealing with an entire salary cap, meaning NIL, of what's funded into the program.
Yeah.
Their probably whole roster made what Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel made just himself.
Yeah.
Oregon or Ohio State, the team that won it all, put a team that was valued at over $20 million on the field. Like, that's hard to compete with.
We're going to put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We got about 30 left. But I need to ask, guys, always ask people what their entrance music walk-off song would be. You're the first person who actually had a walk-up song. What was it?
Oh, my gosh. Honestly, I don't remember back in the day, but Mo Bamba right now I feel like is a good song. So I'm just going to go with that, actually.
Mo Bamba. There he is.
Got a lot of bass to it.
And if you want Mo Sports, just tune in to Jay Tust at KTVB.com. If you got you have more questions or Mo questions for us, send them to 208-321-5614, #JustIN, JUSTIN.